Ryan the Shootist here with a technical note. Today's news webcast was interrupted with a couple technical difficulties, aka my iMac crashed twice. But I edited that out. We're patched up, and for the most part, this is a complete webcast. So hopefully you won't notice too much, except for the fact that I just told you it happened. And if you watched live, you kind of, But here we go.
Oh, man. Wow, you guys are a riot.
This is the best news that anybody could possibly watch.
Yeah.
Okay, I am sad about the Impact thing, though, because I love that tool.
Oh, yeah, me too. I use Impact a lot.
Right? I have some other stuff for it too, but I'm waiting until we're live.
All right, we are streaming, and on my mark, you guys will be live. Are you ready?
Probably. Maybe.
No.
Yeah, I'll do a welcome thing, all right?
We gotta wait for the intro music.
Oh, we got intro music. I forgot about that.
Don't we have intro music?
Do we have intro music?
We're professionals. Absolute professionals.
We just had
We
music playing.
all practiced this for 3 hours yesterday. Remember? We were all there.
we were?
All right. It was just me in my mind.
Hey, welcome everybody to BHIS hangs out together and talks about things.
And talks about stuff.
Talks about stuff. So that's probably all you're going to hear from me today because everybody else is way more prepared than I am.
I'm not sure that's true.
Yeah. I am excited to have made it this long and try to host this news today. And I've actually put together some articles, and we have an all-star cast to talk about some news.
We do.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'm going to sling it to Ralph.
Yeah. Go hit that music.
Some serious jam. We love it.
That was the best.
Who has the time, right? I mean, look. Okay, Ralph, take it away.
Welcome to Black Hills Information Security, talking about the news. This is going to be another exciting episode and probably one of our best yet. We have an all-star cast, right? And let's, start. We've got Byte Leader. We've got Mubix. I wonder why I have a hard time pronouncing that for so long. It's so simple, but it's weird for me. We got Joff, and we got Derek. We also have Ryan, the Shootist, running the magic in the background and making us all sound great and perfect. And we have an exciting episode for you guys. And I guess we'll start it off with the first one. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. And the first one actually is about hackers breaking into security cameras, exposing Tesla, jails, and hospitals, right? And just to give a quick background before I throw it to the group to talk about what they think about this one. So the company is called Vercada, I believe that's how you pronounce it. And what they do is they make IP security cameras. And one thing that makes them kind of different is not only are these security cameras IP based, but they're also cloud based, meaning that each IP camera kind of runs its own thing. It has its own built-in storage, saves its own video, and you access this all via the cloud, right? So one of kind of the requirements of making this all work is they're all on the internet, right? They're all plugged into the internet, and so they're publicly exposed. What essentially happened is some attackers found some clear text credentials and most likely a GitHub repo, because that's where I keep them. And they got access to all these cameras. And they were at Tesla and jails and all kinds of other fun stuff like that. So
yeah, I was going to say, Ralph, you needed to pause a little bit between Tesla and jails. We're not talking about something called a Tesla jail.
Yes,
just
exactly.
For the record, we are actually talking about different entities having footage exposed by the security cams. Tesla included, some jails. Whoa, bizarre.
And hospitals.
Jail sounds fun.
It does. Like Tesla has jails now. They're in space and they're in cars and they're in jails.
That's right. It's the brand new justice system in America. You heard it here first, folks. We're sending prisoners up to orbit. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Electric-powered vehicles.
I am totally kidding.
Electric-powered rockets.
Right.
So yeah, they found hard-coded administrative credentials to these devices. And then they used probably Shodan or any other thing that could scan the internet to find these devices and started logging in. And that's kind of how they got access to this.
Who put security cameras on the internet? Oh, wait, what am I thinking? People do that thing.
That's the funny thing that I think is interesting about this attack. That's how these cameras work. They're typically with an IP camera setup that, we've seen, they would have like a DVR or some kind of NVRs, but they call them, that is on-prem, and that's where all your cameras talk to. But with this, you're actually recording on device, and then your login, whatever, the web interface, it connects to all of these cameras wherever they may be, pulls down a live feed, and the storage is on the camera themselves. So it's kind of a requirement to make it work. But what do you guys think?
So you saying it's all in the cloud?
It's all in the cloud.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, there's so many buzzwords here. I kind of regret, pulling back on the drinking. I really do.
I regret pulling back on the
I guess
you need to download the Cloud to Butt extension, Derek, and then that'll be fixed for you.
Yeah, I guess this is not surprising to me in any way, shape, or form. I think that this is probably a story that you could have said anytime in the last couple of years, and I would have been like, yeah.
I don't think we should call it an extension. I think we probably should call it a butt plugin.
And when I actually was active on Twitter in the past, there was the Internet of Shit. Was that the one that was the Twitter that the Twitter handle that had all these like IoT things that were just disasters?
Yeah,
I mean, this is like, I think, a common thing now, right? And not the barrier to pulling this off isn't terribly hard. And I've been on engagements where I've found cameras and got into them, and yeah.
One of my favorites, and every pen tester probably has a story like this, is when you find a camera on the inside of a network, and then not only do you find the camera is accessible and you can view the image, but you then go further and get lucky enough to find pan, tilt, and zoom controls, and find out that the camera is sitting in the network operations center. Right?
Well, I haven't gotten that one, but I have had a conference room, which this could be interesting, right? So
yeah. So you think?
Can I play devil's advocate real quick?
Your favorite game?
One of the things about most IP cameras is that they by default have UPnP and NetNP built into them. So when you install them, it automatically gives you an IP inside your network and via DHCP, but then it punches a hole to the internet so that it can be accessible from the internet. So I'd say 80% of these people did not port forward these IP cameras intentionally. So we shouldn't blame them for having IP cameras on the internet. So it's the stupid vendor who made it.
Yes,
he made it that way,
right?
So I definitely
let's put the finger at the right place.
Yeah, no, I wasn't pointing the finger at anybody. I was only saying it wasn't surprising, and I don't think that the architecture is necessarily what's to blame here. If the deployment, the folks deploying the camera are to blame in any way, it's that they didn't understand what they were deploying. But that's not uncommon, right? I think the hard-coded credential is where I would point the finger, right? Because I do realize that these devices, these IoT devices, don't always have the computing power to have all the security features that you would find in a modern operating system. I do get that. I also think that you could at least make a hard-coded, or you don't have to have a hard-coded credential, because if it's on the device, someone's going to be able to get it.
Oh, sure. These cameras are legit powerful. So these are enterprise class cameras, and they're doing video analytics on the camera itself to actually detect people and all the other stuff. It's all on camera. So, I mean, it really is a mess up. To Rob's point, it really is a mess up with the vendor, right? So, one, having those hard-coded credentials or credentials that are on tons of devices at multiple, customers. And then second, posting them on the internet. I mean, obviously that happens, mistakes happen, but, we really should have a unique password for all of these devices.
Yeah, so that's that putting it on the internet thing. To me, in the past, I probably would have taken that stance. Well, why would you put it on the internet? But, IPv6, that's where we're going, right? Things are going to be on the internet and they're going to be using the cloud. If that was ever a battle, that battle has been lost. I mean,
yeah.
And show me like 3 pen testers and a sysadmin that understand NatPNP or UPnP, right? I'm serious. Like,
I agree 100%.
Like, I guarantee some of the best sysadmins in the world will put this IP camera on the network, see that it got an internal IP address, and forget about it. Like, and not assume that it's going to punch a hole in their freaking router and switch or gateway.
To me, it comes back to that the adage of good security is good systems administration, right? Like, to me, like, out of all the clients that I've dealt with at Black Hills, I would say only a handful of them had the network architecture awareness to say, hey, look, we're deploying these things. They don't need to be on the flat network. Let's wall them off, right? That just, it's hard, right? I mean, but because it takes a networking group to maintain that. It's expensive. Most places don't want to do it. So,
hey, I want to ask a silly logistics question here really quick about our video cast. So Ryan, if you're listening, does that thing saying live feed really indicate the live feed that's going out? Because it doesn't look very interesting. He's probably not listening.
Yeah, he turned you off. It's on purpose.
Are you talking about
he's off
Are you
getting
talking
a
about
sandwich.
the YouTube chat window?
Yeah, Joff, you got to click it. Click the watch stream.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I did.
I'm afraid to do that. I thought
that's just the chat. He's streaming
the chat for us.
Oh, you're just streaming the chat. Okay, next story.
Back to some inside baseball here. All right, so our next story actually really has to do with Patch Tuesday, right? So if you haven't patched, you should, because of all the stuff we talked about Exchange. But Microsoft got a record 122 CVEs were patched last Tuesday, which is fun stuff. In addition to that, there are some critical vulnerabilities for Microsoft's DNS. So if that's publicly exposed on the internet, no POCs are out, and it's not being used by current threat actors and like a multi-tiered level attack, but still
that we're aware of.
Yeah, that we're aware of. Yeah, God, exactly. If somebody knows, I feel like more than one person knows.
So does anybody know the details on the DNS one? Because that's always interesting, because DNS,
Yeah, so I posted the link. They don't go into too many details, but they do say that it would allow a remote code execution on the target DNS server. So that'll be fun.
That sounds like fun, yes.
Yeah. Mostly I'm thinking about it from an internal perspective. Typically, the Microsoft DNS isn't publicly exposed, but, I've seen stranger things, right? Yeah. It's uncommon. So, I don't know. Fun stuff. Microsoft's in for just a bad week, or are they in for a good week because they patched it all?
I guess I'll channel my my inner Mubix and say, it sounds like the DevOps process is working. I mean, they patched a lot of stuff.
I doubt that they have Oracle beat for number of patches in a single week.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's no way. Like, I've seen Oracle Patch Tuesdays or whatever that were like 500.
So I actually would be interested to hear what you all think about this. Typically, when I do internals now and I'm actually scanning and looking at the results, I'll find some Microsoft stuff occasionally, but it's not like it was in the past. Typically now, it looks like mostly, to at least the engagements I'm on, third-party stuff. Well, third-party to Microsoft, like Oracle. Like, I definitely have taken advantage of Oracle stuff recently. Yeah. I tend to find that a lot more than a systemic patching issue with Microsoft products. So I feel like that organizations, with the help of Microsoft, have been doing a better job with Microsoft stuff. But I mean, what have you ran into?
I've noticed that typically it's about a month out. So like they like to test the patch before they push it. They're not just like patch Tuesday, go. Yeah. But that's not always the case. So, but yeah, typically when you're on, on environments, they do have WSUS and they're watching that kind of patch release cycle and getting those out. So it's not typically a huge issue, but you'd be surprised how many times I have been on engagements and seen old systems that get in special OUs.
Legacy stuff.
Legacy OUs, and they're just forgotten.
Or there's weird patches that don't quite really get patched with the automated patching process sometimes. Or for some reason, one or two machines didn't get patched, I guess, with something I've seen, but,
I've mostly seen, and I in general would agree with Derek. I think it's getting a lot better, but the whole legacy systems thing still is out there. I've seen, Windows XP out there still, Windows 7 out there.
I've seen Server 2003 recently.
Yep, Server 2003, and not patched. Sometimes, pre-infected with Eternal Blue. It's like, what?
Freebie.
Yeah.
They left their interpreter shell there. 444.
Jeez, don't even get me started on that one. I stood up a Linode one time, way back in the day, and I started my interpreter handle on 443 and got a shell like out of the blue, and it was inside of a corporate network, and I had taken over another pen tester's node, like our IP address, and the shell was still calling back, like, and I had to find the organization and inform them that like they had a shell on their box, and like because it kept calling back, like there was decent persistence on it.
Oh man, so many stories, right? I mean, I remember Derek and I were on one time, and we got a shell, but we quickly learned that the organization had outsourced their help desk, and the shell we got was not the domain we expected. It's shoot.
Would have been good information to know before we pulled off the attack.
Well, the attack was fun because the attack was a macro loaded spreadsheet uploaded to the Remedy help ticketing system.
That was
the help desk guy.
This organization had some things that weren't two-factor, and submitting help desk tickets was one of them. So it was getting towards the end of the engagement, and we were like, "Hey, let's try this," and it totally worked.
Pro tip.
I mean, if they're still using Remedy, you're in. Good. Yeah, you're good no matter what.
Yeah, and I think it was Remedy. I don't remember what it was at the time.
Yeah, I think it was Remedy.
Man, I hated that software.
It was like 4 years ago. I mean, I don't know if they're still using it.
Boy, it was fun. I think we were on the phone with John at the time, and we're like, we got a shell at. Oh shit! It's not the right domain.
So if we were legit attackers,
back away slowly.
If we were, actual bad guys, right? That would have been a great place to be.
So the life lesson here is you should have a kill date on your C2. Okay.
Yeah.
So remember that.
So going back to that DNS bug, I read the very short article or the very short white paper.
It's extremely short. I get it.
Pages. Like I don't understand how you can get published. Anyways,
they got a CVE though.
Oh God, don't even start.
It does say initial publication. Or, I don't know. Maybe that's like. Go ahead.
But it does bring up something very near and dear to my heart. So the vulnerability is in the ability to add base 64 in a certain way to a text record, and the problem for me, one, is that Windows by default Active Directory requires, if you installed it in recent years versus like 15 years ago, your DNS server on Windows automatically accepts any authenticated, secure, quote unquote, DNS updates. So anyone in the organization can add a text record, no problem. And this is something that should be definitely looked at more by organizations getting off of Microsoft DNS, just because One, this vulnerability is probably pretty bad anyways, but the fact that any domain user can add any record they want is a pretty serious vulnerability that is not patchable currently. Like even with this patch, you should definitely think about moving off of Microsoft DNS just for that reason.
Yeah, weren't you on an engagement with me where you pulled this off and their network team was less than happy?
Yes, I've pulled this off multiple times, and
so it's your gift, but you want them to fix it.
Absolutely, like seriously, no.
I hear you.
I love attacking this. However, like I'm in this game to make organizations better, and the less attacks that I have, the better. Which perfectly, what's the word? Goes into the next article.
Oh, segue is the word.
Yeah, segues. It perfectly segues into the next article.
Thank you. What a beautiful segue.
By the way, I you can tell me what, if you want, what the text of the record that you added, but I mean, fix your shit comes to mind.
Ouch.
Ouch. So our next article is actually about Google releasing a easy code signing and verification for supply chain integrity. That's how they're launching the article. So think of this, right? Right now we have Let's Encrypt for SSL certificates.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, right. Everyone uses it. It's great.
So I actually.
Oh, we're back on the air. We had a minor crash.
Oh wow, yeah.
Little crash, blue screen, I think is what happened. Anyways,
the whole computer just froze.
Gray screen.
Yeah,
gray screen. Was it a spinning wheel or blue?
It was
beach ball?
Nothing. It was just a frozen image and nothing was responding.
Wow.
That's no fun. So we were talking about the Google code signing cert and then Let's Encrypt, and we were about to talk about the Google code signing cert and our opinions on it, and that's when Google killed Ryan's machine.
Yeah, they heard about it.
Right. Send out the electric shocks.
Yeah, so I guess what do you guys think about this code signing cert, Let's Encrypt style, right? So some API that we can make for code signing certs. I'm excited.
I'm thrilled. I think from the offensive perspective, it has lots of opportunity. And why wouldn't we investigate that? Right? So, yeah, good food for thought. I mean, so many ideas can come out of that. It's
not like the barrier for entry for code signing certs was really hard in the first place. I mean, I'll talk in general that I may know someone who may have went and got a code signing cert, and it really just involved a phone call and a verification that he had a business license. And
yeah, that's pretty much how it works. I've gotten
didn't somebody? You guys kind of correct me if I'm wrong here, but isn't there kind of two levels of code signing? Isn't there the easy one, which is the quick and quick process, and then there's sort of the super, you've got to hand over your children and give us a blood sample and give us a Dun & Bradstreet number and all that crap.
That's ATT&CK.
Yeah.
So actually, I don't know, and maybe you all know, does it really matter for signed code running on a Windows OS?
I would say from detection, from what I've seen, a lot of products are not going and validating whether this cert is signed by a particular CA. Even more importantly, whether it's been on a revocation list, right? So maybe it got revoked.
That's actually interesting though, because I've seen, I know those of us who've authored some stuff with code signing, you eventually see it get blocked, right? So they use the certificate as a way to say, no, that's just flat evil. So is that a good thing? Is it a good thing to use it? Is it a bad thing to use it? I mean, sometimes mixed feelings, right?
Well, so if let's say that bad people start using this Google code signing cert, how's that going to work out?
That's the genius of how they're doing this, right? Okay. So there is no revocation. It expires at a certain time.
Yeah.
They do not check revocation at all because they know that process doesn't work. The really cool thing about this is that once it gets signed, once the driver, the intermediaries get signed and it's valid inside of ATT&CK or whatever, they're still working on that. But it checks the the date timestamp of the signature to make sure that the code that the public key can sign, or the public key is for that. Sorry, let me take a step back because I'm getting confusing myself. It says that this timestamp, it then signs that timestamp with the public key of the intermediary that is trusted, and says, is it correct? And so this basically does revocation locally without ever having to talk to anything.
Okay.
And validate through the OSCP model or OCSP or model or whatever, like any other process. There's also one other feature, a piece of it that it verifies together. I forget the exact thing, but it does revocation locally, which is the thing that is missing from current code signing, right?
Yeah. So that's
to Ralph's point that it, like, at some point this will be validated through AuthentiCode. Hopefully, it depends on if Microsoft and Google can, get along for a second. But once it does, it will actually be pretty effective in validating the code signing of it. Now, the other piece is that you can say, I think it's in the code spec. You can say which vendors you're okay with, and then you can even lock it down further from a defender point of view.
So this was actually where I was kind of go with that is, let's say that I'm an organization. No, I was going to ask a question. Let's say that I'm an organization and I want to not trust this certificate, or Let's Encrypt for that matter. I can just remove it from my trusted store and all my Windows systems, correct?
Sort of. So you're running your own intermediary, I think, is their model right now, and you basically say, here are the ones that I approve of.
Okay.
It's a allow list versus deny list.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to go to. So
that's
it's
fascinating.
It hands over some of the certificate chain control essentially to you, because you're running the intermediary certificate side of it. Right, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, I like that.
Sort of. So it's not really a CA.
It's not a CA.
You're not a CA.
It's not the intermediate CA. You're running the oh man, I had it all pulled up. It's like starts with an R. You run the other code. You run their code locally in your network, and you can then say these are the things that are validated. I'm confusing it. Ignore me.
Okay, well, so we'll I guess we could dig back into that, but the conceptually, to actually hand over some control of what you will allow, that's actually the important point, because that's what gives you that ability as the end user, end customer, to actually do something about it if there's problems.
I mean, I definitely I like that because the first time years ago when I looked into the Windows certificate store of what was actually trusted, I was terrified. Why would we trust all of this? So the organization I was at the time, I was like, can we remove some of this?
The CA model is a little flawed, and I think that is kind of what Rob's talking about. And this is good to actually help improve that model, as opposed to just try to hope and pray that it gets better. So
I guess it doesn't really surprise me that Google is coming out with this, because if you've done any mobile or Android testing, later versions of Android aren't real friendly to user supplied certificates. Just
no, they're not.
Right.
No.
So
it's all good stuff. All right, we have another good article. This one actually is pretty fun. This one's about WeLeak Info. Okay. And
Ralph, can we do this? Is a point of order thing, but can we do the tool story first, because I'm dying to talk about that, man.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. We have been detoured to
detour.
This is an easy one.
We need like yellow signs. Detour.
All right. So check it out. The other one I had for today is, this was posted on Twitter. and that is Responder will be end of life starting now.
Did you just hear all the groans right then? Oh,
yeah. So this doesn't mean I believe that he is deleting it all off of GitHub and running away and never talking about it. What this means is that he is just not going to continue to maintain it anymore. So what do you guys think about this? And I think before the show started, everyone was talking about some other stuff going on too. So this is maybe one of many, right?
So I have mixed feelings. I'm not good at this idea of maintaining an open source project, and I don't know many people that actually feel that they maintain their open source projects really well.
I actually love Marcello to chime in about
and so that's exactly where I was going. If you've put yourself in the position of actually having to maintain and coordinate some sort of open source project, it is not an easy thing to do. So, Marcello, what do you think, man?
I think that if every pen test and red team shot actually contributed back to the Responder project throughout all these years, we wouldn't have to rely on Laurent actually maintaining this in his spare time. And again, like, I keep saying this almost on every news show whenever like one of these open source tool things comes up. But we gotta. The community really has to start understanding. Well, not the community, because it's not about the individuals. It's about the companies, like the multi-million-dollar companies that the testers that have testers that are using these tools on a daily basis. They really have to start understanding that this is not sustainable at all.
I mean, I definitely think
that sort of makes the assumption that the person maintaining it has stepped away because they're tired of being kind of a solo effort, and I suspect that's a pretty common feeling.
Sure.
Oh no, it's the universal feeling. It's not. I mean, there's a 3-part problem to this, and again, this is all my personal opinion, just on my experience. So I have no data to back this up whatsoever. But this is just like my experience with this. But I think the one of the fundamental problems, is that a lot of people in the information security industry just don't know how to code. And that's a huge problem, and that's part of the issue why like you see a lot less contributions specifically to Infosec tooling than you would see to just like general development tools or general development projects, open source projects. And I think that's one of the big problems. But I think it's just a lack of awareness that most of these huge companies just rely on these tools that are just available for free, and then with that, they just don't realize that that's what they're doing. They're just using these tools that are just available for free.
Well, I mean, it's just not security tools, right? I mean, if you look at something like OpenSSL, I mean, how many appliances use that at all of the? I mean, if there's just some contribution back to the developers of OpenSSL, they probably wouldn't even need day jobs, right?
I mean, how many things is OpenSSL actually not embedded in?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's on all the things. Like,
exactly.
So, and the reason that I asked or wanted to hear from Marcello is because I know some of his opinions already, and I know that Black Hills has made contributions to open source software in the past, because John is aware of this kind of issue, and it does make me sad that like something as awesome as Responder is I mean, they're hanging it up, and I think one of the things that moving forward, I think, because we were talking about other things too, right? Earlier, like Rob said something about Unpacket. Mm-hmm. And there's a list of things. So, I know that there have been Twitter, I want to say Twitter wars in the past, like of folks on the blue side saying that offensive tools shouldn't be open source, that folks like Marcello shouldn't be releasing these things. But I think it is for the better, right? And I think now if folks who write offensive tooling, if they stop releasing things and it all ends up being private projects, it's just going to make it a lot harder for detection. I mean, maybe not specifically in the case of Responder, but for other things. I mean, Marcello and I were on an engagement where we were using Cobalt Strike, and there was a security product that was all over it. And then we started using Marcello's awesome code, and they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just comes down to a lack of awareness, I think. And like, I mean, it is fantastic that Black Hills definitely has started like taking like a part of the income from the trainings that we do and donating it to the projects that are in the trainings. The problem is like this has to be like Black Hills can only do so much, right? Like if there comes a point where like if the entire industry uses a single tool and it's maintained by one person, the burden of that is just absolutely enormous. And you can't expect like that person.
At minimum, though, I think it is a good thing that we can at least try to lead by example and hope that others pick up on that and
absolutely.
And
follow. But I have call me cynical, but I sincerely doubt that unless we start naming and shaming, which honestly I'm all for at this point, because I think that's
Hey Marcello, I think you're feeling cynical. I don't blame you for feeling cynical at all.
Yeah, no.
You have been in the crosshairs on this one.
I mean, I actually noticed here recently when I pulled down the latest version of Responder that there was a banner basically saying, hey, if you like this, why don't you give me some money? And I'm like, oh, yeah. Well, I think we have. So, yeah, we did. But, like, you're right. If everybody who used it donated some money, would we be talking about this right now?
No.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting with the open source, software model, right? When someone does make something that everyone loves, it's just like, they're like, oh, this is great. It's free. I just go grab it. I use it. Guy keeps updating it. I mean, great, right?
I mean, I'm definitely guilty of that, right?
Yeah. And
but the thing is, like, you really shouldn't, because, like, this is not, like, what I'm saying is not directed to the individual tester. It's like that responsibility lies in the companies themselves, right? Because like it would be crazy if so you're hired, so what, you're a pen tester, you work
you're
at
paying
you're a pen tester who works at a multi-million-dollar company, and then you have to pay part of your salary to support
your buddies and friends who are trying to help you.
That's absolutely kangaroo.
So, I do think you have a point, though, that the individual folks, there probably is a lack, and I'm guilty of it for using tools that I never contributed to. I mean, it's a time and effort type thing for sure, but I've also never been the a-hole who went, hey, your stuff's broken, why don't you fix it?
Well, that's a complete.
Yeah. The other one that I've seen too is that they'll be like, I'm using this tool, and it could be a little bit better or whatever it may be. And instead of doing a pull request, like fixing it, trying to improve that tool, you go, I'm just going to start over and make something totally new. And you start a whole new thing, just like the other person, and post that. You're like, look what this new thing I made. It's kind of like that other thing that this other dude did, but mine has these other features that I could have definitely just pushed to that person.
So I've had that happen to me. And,
I've had that happen too. Yeah, it's
and that is just not cool. I mean, come on, folks.
I get it. If you just want to learn how to start over from something in scratch or whatever, like, it's go have fun, man. It's just that sometimes it's like one little thing. They're like, maybe people just want the ownership. I'm not exactly sure, but I've seen it. So
I mean, that's also a separate discussion. I feel like
it really is. Yeah,
fragmentation of these tools is definitely another thing, but
that goes to the contribution part that you're talking about, right? When you're the only person doing it.
But at the same time, that's also like the nature of open source. Like if you're making an open source tool, you're sort of signing on to that.
Absolutely.
Possibility, because like there's nothing stopping me from just forking your project and maintaining like a private or a fork of it. I mean, that's just like the nature of open source. So I mean, it's more just about changing this leech culture, which I'm totally stealing that from John, because John came up with that term. But it really comes down to just changing this leech culture, where like these companies, that there's just a lack of self-awareness that, hey, did you know like your entire like income depends on your testers, which use these freely available tools that are basically being maintained by a one man band or one woman band or whatever you identify as. So like that's just comes down to like a lack of self-awareness, which I honestly don't know how to change that except naming and shaming at this point.
Or charging money, but then it's not open source anymore.
But I mean, Rob mentioned one that wasn't open source that was paid for that's also hanging it up, right?
Yeah, but I think that that was just because of a merger more than anything. I think that was just because like they got. I mean, so
yeah. I mean, I don't really know the story. I certainly don't know, but from talks that I saw, Raphael give, I wonder if it wasn't just pressure because he had this really cool rat, and then it got like a threat actor group got it, and he experienced a lot of pressure of he's basically making weapons, right? And so I wonder if that wasn't the reason he kind of sold it and stepped back. And to me, is that good for the industry or is it bad for the industry? I mean, people argue about this all the time, right? And I have my opinion is I think that is overall bad just because of my experiences that I have had over the last couple of years at Black Hills. Because I think that when we don't have a good tool to go to that we're paying for, we'll have to write it ourselves, and that makes it a lot harder for defenders and organizations like EDR vendors to detect.
Yeah, because it's not out in the public forum. So that's it's a tough issue. I've struggled with even considering, and I haven't for the most part, open sourcing some of the things that I'm doing that are. Some of them I think are pretty cool, but I'm not sure whether I want to dip my foot in that pond because
it really isn't worth it. Like honestly, like I mean, right now, Josh, in your career, it literally would not be worth it because like the only reason why I even started this is because I needed to get the hell out of Italy and I needed to find a job, right?
Right.
Like that was the main. That was the main driver behind it, right? But so. If you already have a career and like unless you're just super passionate about it, which is fantastic, but at the end of the day, like you like if you do that and you have a career already, like expect no work-life balance whatsoever.
Well, that is the downside, right? Because once you and that's exactly the equation that I've gone through in my mind, Marcello. You're right on target. I mean, it's just like, why would I just literally buy myself more trouble for no financial reward?
Yep.
I am convinced that companies like Microsoft and other like EDR vendors, for the good that they're doing, I do also think that they are essentially watching a lot of researchers, right? Because I use one of our coworkers, Brian Fairman's code that enumerates shares and looks at the contents of those shares, and it's flagged, right? And then I just go get some other other tool that I'm not going to mention because I don't want it to be busted any sooner than it's going to get busted. And it works fine. So it's not the behavior, it's the code. And I'm not sure I like that.
It's the implementation and not the technique.
Yeah. And I don't really know how I feel about that. I guess, there's an argument that could be made that, okay, well, if a bad guy is using it, we want to, catch it. But I mean, still, the behavior is really where it should be. And at this point in time, a company like Microsoft or any of the other, vendors that are making EDR products should have the chops to look at the behavior and make an analysis on it, right? I just,
yeah. So we're sort of segueing into a slightly different conversation, but that's also a very tough nut to solve, right? I mean, sure. I'm about to say that, everybody ready with their beverage of choice, right? But you look at machine learning, you look at artificial intelligence. Oh, wow. Two in the same sentence.
In a row.
There definitely have been significant advances that do help companies detect trends. Frankly, and I'll even give Microsoft a little bit of credit here. In the last test that I was doing for a customer, Microsoft's ATA, the Adaptive Threat Analytics product, I guess it's called, did a pretty good job of seeing some trends that I was showing in my activity, and they weren't directly things that were detected on the endpoint. And so, I've got to give, when companies are coming up with things that really are leveraging machine learning and techniques like that, you got to give them a little bit of credit, right? They're starting to do the right things.
It's hard to hide from math.
It is hard to.
I mean, it really is. And look, I'm not.
I just fumbled around about 10 sentences, and Derek just summed it up in one.
but if you've used some more buzzwords, though, it may have salted it up a little.
Well, I was going to leverage my core competencies, but
I mean, I just ran up against Defender for Identity, which I guess is the next ATP. Like, it has some Azure tie-ins. I was impressed. It did a fantastic job, and I tried in the engagement to essentially stop operating on the Windows endpoints and look at other avenues, right?
Right, and that's an interesting trend that is emerging in our testing. In fact, that a lot of us, I think, are stepping away from the endpoint a little bit to try not to execute stuff on that thing if possible, and proxy traffic through it as much as we can.
And then I got legit user creds and went and found where that user was and tried to be that user. And I think, flying that close under the radar was helpful. But I mean...
Yeah. But we should be happy about that, right?
No. Well, I feel like that we, the folks on this call, help make that happen to a degree.
Yeah.
So I think it's for the better overall, as annoying as it is.
So it kind of sucks that these tools are going, and especially sucks for organizations because, it sucks for us, right? As, security professionals and utilizing these tools in our jobs when they stop, being updated. Sometimes, it's literally because of what Marcello was talking about. They're just tired of holding up, this heavy rock. Other times it's because, something's depreciated and, it's just not being used that much. But in a couple of these cases, it's not the case. But, it's kind of one of those things. You want your friends close, right? But your enemies closer. So we have the news team just like pumping these things in here. And I'm just going through and being like, all right, not malware or not ransomware, not ransomware. All right, not ransomware. Right.
Not ransomware, not a fish link, not a fish link.
Not a fish link.
Okay, I guess that's it then.
Yeah, that was really abrupt. This is the first time I've been on a news, and I think I've almost been to all of them, where we lost Ryan once, let alone twice.
Yeah, that's true.
It was tough. You know what? I thought, for the record, that we did a great job today.
It was an amazing show. It was one of our best. With more to come.
One of our best. Good job.
One of the best.
Well done.
I think I might be a legend in my own mind now.
Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am?
Do you know?
Well, thank you everybody for joining. It was fun.
All right. Thanks for hosting.
All right. Later, guys.
See ya.
Bye.